So on Friday morning, is on the 27th of November, around 7 a.m., we had a system disturbance. And upon further investigation, we recognized that our LS transmission line, which is the submarine cable, is stripped from a fault, a face to ground fault. And upon further investigation, we got information that there was a vessel in the vicinity where the cable lies across the river. So we decided to restore power normal and take that line out until we get further to see what could have caused the fault on the line. We immediately engaged some other plans. Some immediate measures was taken where we have access to our contractor, the guy that normally provides this kind of service, the Geico Engineering. We get this barge, we get the diver, and we proceed to investigate further on the situation with the cable. And we confirmed that when he get down there, he confirmed that the cable was hooked in the anchor of this vessel. We couldn't do anything. It was very late on that day, and the tide would have changed. So we continue next morning on Saturday, and we proceed to carry out our investigation. And we pull the cable up onto the barge, and by doing so, we recognize that the cable was loosened from an existing joint, an existing splicing joint that we had on a prior failure. And so we immediately started to conduct some other investigation to check to see where else on this cable, probably, if there is any other breach along the length of the cable. From that section where we found we saw the ends. So we carried out some tests, and the test results have shown positive so far. So that confirmed that from where we found the breach, where the end was loosened, all the way back to the breeding hoop end, the cable was okay. We haven't find any reasons that, based on our test, that there is any other breach along the line. We continue to do some check to find the other end, and we couldn't get it on the same day. So Sunday morning, the diver went down again, and then we were able to find the other end, which from the Kingston side. And we carry out that test, and it's also proven to be intact based on the results and the measurements and so that was done, confirmed that the cable is okay. So that brings us to the conclusion that in only that one section where we found the two ends was where the fault is. The fault was that after the incident. So we also confirmed that it's only one area that is damaged along the length of the cable. So we immediately started to engage our supplier, the person the contractor that would have laid this cable across the Demerara River. We are right now in consultation with him. We are still waiting on a word on when we're going to, get some positive. We're waiting on to see if we can get some feedback in terms of when we can get the technicians here. But we right now looking at having that cable out of the grid. So we are operating two systems. The cable is actually out of the interconnection, the DBI's interconnection system. So the West Demerara is operating using the power plant at Braden Hoop, and the Eastern Demerara, all the other power plants are being connected to the grid. So with that, our system having that link, that submarine cable out of the grid, it's a little challenge for us in terms of stability of the grid. We know that when the plants are all connected together, we get more stability in the system, and the Braden Hoop power plant has been one of our swing. We call it a swing plant, meaning that it's follow the frequency, trying to maintain frequency in the grid. So having that out, we're now not being able to do that. But our technical team right now is working to make another plant within the rest of the connection, the connected grid, to have that options available so we can maintain stability. Yes, so within the other connecting plant on the eastern side of the river, on the Demerara River, we're looking to use one plant to help support in terms of the frequency to help maintain stability. Because we know the frequency is the heartbeat of the system. And if we can have control over the frequency, we can maintain stability. One thing I want to mention though, by having the Vrinhu plant running independent, or we will say island mode, it is not one of the best options for the plant. And that is because of the feeders that are connected to it. If we get failure on any one of the feeder, and if it's a large feeder, there's a high probability that the plant will shut down. So that is one of the risks on the western side of the Demerara River, and that is like villages on the west coast, on the east bank. So that is what I can say in terms of the damages to the cable and the one of the major challenges that we can face right now in operating the grid.
We did discuss some alternative plans to bury the cable a bit more deeper, and so right now we're exploring all the options. We're still looking at alternative suppliers. We do have our original suppliers from China, and we're talking with them first of all to see if we can get them to come into the country. Because of the COVID-19 challenges, we're faced with some difficulties there in terms of timelines. But to answer your question, yes, we are looking into the option of burying the cable a bit deeper. That way would avoid the kind of problems we're facing right now. So we're still awaiting a report from Mara. As far as we're aware, that they still have these messages out to these vessels, so we'll await the report and then we'll provide some more details.
So on Friday morning, when this incident with the cable occurred, obviously the entire Demerara-Berbice system collapsed. When the system collapses, obviously the Berbice system would try to restore power to Berbice. The Demerara system would come up and link with the Berbice system. Like Mr. Harjan said, the loss of the cable meant that the West Demerara system had to operate independently. So the outages on Friday morning had to do with, first of all, restoring the system in sections, East Berbice, East Demerara, West Demerara, and of course confirming that in fact the cable had a major failure and could not be returned to service. Yesterday we had another incident, in fact yesterday morning, where a number of transmission lines, in fact 4 transmission lines tripped almost instantaneously. And we had 2 transmission lines between the Sophia substation and the Golden Grove substation that went off. We had the transmission line between Sophia and Kingston that went off, and we had another transmission line on the east coast between Good Hope and or line 17 actually, between Good Hope and Columbia, that went off. The transmission line between Kingston and Sophia was energized shortly after, and that is in service. No further issues were encountered, but a check of the line, we discovered the remnants of a kite by the camping ground, and we had that burnt off. But there was some corrective work to further secure that transmission link, this main transmission link between Kingston and Sophia. The links between Sophia and Good Hope, Golden Grove, those are re-energized, those transmission links, and checks have been done to verify whether in fact there were issues down there that we need to attend to. The transmission link between on the East Coast, they have found a problem with an old pole actually that was touching the transmission line. They've actually attended to that. Compounding the trips and the subsequent collapse of the system, we had a problem with a circuit breaker, 69 kV circuit breaker that forms the link on the transmission line between Kingston and Sophia. And that breaker It is still not fully resolved, but yesterday we were able to establish an alternative arrangement and to put it back in service. So there's a team currently working at Kingston trying to find a permanent solution to that circuit breaker.
When do you anticipate this will be resolved?
It is not a major hindrance to the safe operation of the system, but in fact, if the transmission link between Kingston and Sophia trips again, we're going to have to rush there to basically put in a temporary power supply to restore the breaker to service. We don't see it as a major challenge, but we're better, we're going to be in a much better position if we get the original power supply to this breaker established. And that's what they're working on right now. I'm hoping that that is resolved either today or tomorrow. So we've had these two incidents back to back almost, and of course we understand that with the entire system collapsing, consumers are extremely worried that we're possibly setting a pattern going into the holiday season. But with the Kingston system collapsing yesterday, of course West Demerara was operating independently. But Mr. Harjana said that we had an incident on the West Demerara this morning, just after 5, where the West Demerara system collapsed. So the power plant at Braden Hope is a very large plant with the largest single engines in the system. And of course the loss of any significant load. And what we had happening this morning is that the largest circuit connected on the West Demerara between Edinburgh and Perico actually tripped and the plant shut down. We have people right now actually checking that line between Edinburgh and Perico to see if we could identify what may have caused this transient problem. We can also be checking the other feeders on the West Demerara to try to identify any potential threats to maintain stability over there. On the East Demerara here, we are linked to Berbice, and so there is some level of stability, except that the purpose that the Braden Hope plant had firmly served in the Demerara-Berbice system, we now have to assign that stabilizing role to the Kingston Wartsila plant. And some adjustments need to be done there, which we are working on right now.
So just to add to the mitigation, Mr. Dindial just alluded to the T&D side, the transmission network side. We have also been doing some extra work on the generation side. So we had a team, they were there yesterday, working on bringing up some additional generation set. As we're speaking right now, they're in Cane Field. So we're trying all the possible options to ensure that we make up for the shortfall that we're having currently because of the submarine cable.
So in terms of generation, Mr. Ramtal was mentioning about the additional capacity. That will bring us to about 159 megawatts for the holiday season. And right now we have 136. So with the added 10 megawatts, which we're going to put at the 3 locations, we have about 13 megawatts right now on the maintenance, and we are expecting all these units to be available by December the 9th. And so put all of that, add all of those units together, we are expecting to go through the holidays with about 159 megawatts of power. And if we still being isolated from the west side by that time, which we are hoping to get that problem resolved by then, we will have about 26 megawatts on the west and the remainder on the east. So that put us in a very good shape in terms of available generation for the holidays. The only concern we may have is the system being unstable, and if there is any outage because of the instability issues, we will return power in a short possible time.
When you said 26 megawatts on the west and the rest on the east, explain that to me.
Okay, so our Braden Hope power plant is three generators there, and the 3 generators combined is 26 megawatts. And we use for the customers on the west coast and the east and the west bank about an average and about 18 megawatts in the peak. Just to add a little more on the benefits that we can get on the east, and some of the measures that we would have put in place after the last interruption of the cable, we would have installed a submarine cable from Vrede Hoop to Princess Street. So that acts as a feeder cable, and that allows for approximately 5 megawatt of power coming from Vrede Hoop. Along with that, we would have built a express feeder or an additional feeder from Vrede Hoop to Friesland. And that feeder, whilst its help is also allowing us to bring over about 3 megawatts to the eastern side. In the past, we used to use the 69 kV, bring over an average about 14 megawatt, and then take over back about 3 megawatt. So we're no longer exporting power back to Vrede Hoop. Vrede Hoop is now exporting to east. So we're no longer exporting to west, we're now exporting to the east. So once the 69 kV line is out, we can bring over approximately 8 megawatt via the two other lines at the 13.8 kilovolts level. We're still on target with our maintenance for the critical activities. So for generation, our maintenance activity is expected to complete, the last generator is expected to complete maintenance on December the 9th. And from the transmission and distribution, we are working towards December the 15th, all major maintenance. So you will see interruptions from now until December the 15th. You will see the schedule. We'll have planned outages for maintenance. That is according to our maintenance program. Beyond December the 15th, we'll only be addressing emergency outages. So if there's an emergency in one of our lines or there's a localized fault, we'll respond to that. Of course, we will try our best to make sure that the public is being informed, if an area is being out, very quickly. But, in an emergency case, you might see the light goes off, and then you might see a statement coming out afterwards. So that is the plans moving forward and how we can address some of the things. And we can go on like that until by mid of January. And then we'll continue back our maintenance program.
All right, so traditionally we expect rains in December, January, and February, but we've seen already rainfall and some significant amount of rainfall. We traditionally know that this kind of weather has an adverse effect on the performance of our networks, and that we have an elevated level of failures. We have increased volumes of customer calls. Mr. Ramthal has assured us that there are additional teams that's going to be out there actually attending to these faults. But we are aware that there are areas still with illegal networks, and these networks were installed in a very dangerous manner. We are aware that where there's flooding, localized flooding, that these networks pose an ever-present danger. And we want to caution folks who are aware of where these networks exist to exercise extreme caution. To the extent that GPL knows, we would continue to go into those areas proactively and try to disconnect the service, but we understand that as fast as we could take them off, they'll go back up. And so we might never be able to get a full handle on them. And we've had instances in the past where persons would have, suffered the worst from these incidents. Apart from network safety, I'm sure that GPL shortly will start to talk about safety in the home, particularly with overloading outlets, installing decorative lights, whether indoors or outdoors, and of course the attendant risk that these things present. But planned maintenance activities would be suspended from December 15th, and we'll focus all our resources on emergency response. To the extent that something happens, GPL would respond to it and do whatever it takes to try to make safe, remedy it. And that's the kind of assurance we want to give as we go into the Christmas season.
So from our customer services end, we have been working around the clock to ensure we have a more integrated system to deal with emergency calls. So we're urging our customers to continue calling directly into the emergency numbers. Whenever you have issues, we have a better system we put in place right now to ensure that The report is being tracked. We just mentioned we have additional teams. We have additional rapid response teams on the ground. We're now integrating that team with our call center, our emergency crews, and also our PR. So we'll provide more frequent updates on our website. We will try whenever there is major problems. We'll also come to the media. We'll blitz that to the media. So we're working on having a more better communication system to inform the public whenever we have reliability issues. We're trying now to give you the estimated time to fix that issue, and so at least we're informing the public on these activities.